know where you've clicked or landed. This place is called Three Jewels, the Enlightenment Studio. We've been open for 25 and we are founded in a Tibetan Buddhist lineage, but we're a little bit irreverent and want to practice those things in the modern day, but still authentic. Yeah. So welcome everybody. Can I get a wave so I can see you're all alive? Yeah, good. Good. Okay, not just some images there. And if you can, thank you, Natasha. Hi. And if you can I invite you to put your cameras on? You're definitely not going to be less made up than me. It just makes such a difference for me to be able to see you. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, hi, and wave, and Gopika, hi. Hi, Holly. And you can all see everyone up here? Yeah. So there's a bunch of people in studio. If you see like the third camera up. Is that Bruce? Hi, Bruce. Wow, my heart just exploded. I haven't seen your beautiful face for a long time. Hi, Bruce. Bruce was a board member for Three Jewels for many, many years. He really helped us do the shift from what Three Jewels used to be to what we are today. And then he moved to Florida. Sorry. Thanks for showing up, Bruce. What a cool way to see you. Hi. Okay, so welcome everyone. You're at Three Jewels, Tibetan Buddhist or lineage, investigating reality, but most importantly, our own personal experience of reality. And how is it that all these practices that we hear about, the ones you see on TikTok, the ones you see on Instagram, do this and you'll be happy. Do that and you'll be happy. You have anxiety, do this and do that and do this and do that. So we do a bunch of those practices and we get to discuss why and if they work. And so we have a bunch of courses and classes at Three Jewels, regular meditation sessions led by really well-studied teachers, amazing yoga. Yep, amazing yoga. I'm glad you liked it. We do a bunch of service programs. We go out to places where people can't afford to come to a studio or take a class, and then a bunch of the community members at Three Jewels create just as good an experience as you would have here in homeless shelters or other places that you might not get access to these places. So it's really a community of people that practice stuff, right? We're practitioners. And I said a little bit at the beginning that I tend to be irreverent. And I tend to be irreverent around the structure of making a practice dogmatic to wake me up that this thing can actually transform something. Without that, making Buddhism just another dogmatic thing doesn't work if you figured that out from other dogmatic things that you've encountered. Yeah. So we're interested in really digging deep, both intellectually and experientially, as if, for example, if meditation is supposed to help you so much, why? And if you don't know why the hell are you sitting on your ass for 2 hours or an hour a day or 10 minutes so still that you're hoping something would happen? And if you don't know that answer for yourself, because sitting on your ass quietly doesn't really change anything, right? But if you understand what that process is supposed to do, or why your mind would move in a certain way to actually give you a rapture of awakening, if you understand that, then you actually have something consciously to practice, right? Right. Thanks, Jessica. I'm so glad you agree. So that's where you've landed. You've landed at a place where on Tuesday nights, besides all those things that we do at Three Jewels, on Tuesday nights, I get the pleasure to be able to pick a specific practice and try and break it apart and answer a bunch of questions from people that have already done those practices, mostly. So if you've ever meditated, put up your hand. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a bunch of meditators. Do we know what we're doing, and is that ignited in us? And have we discussed it with other meditators? Or do we suffer alone, that you think in a corner for like a year and I'm meditating, no really, I'm a meditator, yeah, I meditate, but your life internally is a mess. I mean, that's my experience after doing this for 25 years, right? When I kept it secret and I didn't have anyone to check it with, I just created more of the mess that I had before. But I'm a meditator. And now you poor bastards have this thing, a black mirror, and it lets you show the perfect meditation posts and the perfect meditation words to your friends. But what's your insides doing? And I challenge you to not waste your practice, because there is something to be had in a sit. It does transform your life, but not sitting by itself. You've got to know what your mind is doing. And so I'm irreverent in the presentation of dogmatic practices, but I am super, what's the opposite of irreverent? Is it reverent? Yeah. Shut up. But I'm very reverent. No, I hate that. I want another word. There is a reverence that comes when you actually, when you have a kind of devotion, a commitment to your transformation, and you see why all those instructions for those practices are there. When you taste that, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, really. And I get emotional because I'm a baby. No, I get emotional because if you've tasted a moment of rapture in any of these practices, be it meditation or serving, just wishing bliss on another person or something like that, there's a piece that you see available in your mind that is always there, but something draws you back to normal and arguing and bad self-talk and all that stuff. But my experience is you only got to taste it properly once, and then you can let all the human habits of addiction apply to that reverence and that devotion. And then, like for me, I've practiced, failed and failed and failed, but intellectually I understood what I was supposed to do and what it could do. I was stubborn, and most of you are probably stubborn. If you're in this room trying to study this stuff, you're probably stubborn in some way, right? Like stubborn about a certain way. It will help you, and then it'll hinder you as you get into the practice. But if you can apply the addictive nature of human consciousness to that taste of rapture you might have had in a little bit, it will last you 3, 4, 5 years until you have another one. And then it'll be 2 years before you have another one. And that's, for me, at least in the 25 years that I've failed at this, it's enough to keep me electrified to the goodness that's available to all of us. And I can say all the nice things, I can say all these wonderful things, but I can't give it to you. I really can't. Nobody could give it to me. No one's coming to save. If you haven't figured that out, no one's coming to save you. I'm sorry to say so. It's true. But then if you practice, if you really connect, everyone's there to save you. But it's because you shifted something, not because they did something. The world will continue being the world. Anyway, I'm rambling. Yeah, it's not really what I want to talk about. So you've landed on a Tuesday night where Hector gets to do blah, blah, and then we all get to talk about a specific practice. Make sense? Yeah? Good. Thank you. Nikita, give me a thumbs up if the live Russian translation is going crazy because I'm talking too fast. Natasha, you're also doing this at 2 a.m. I want a big welcome to all our Russian-speaking community all over Eastern Europe. Can you all say hi to them, to your camera, so they'll be able to see? Welcome to 3 Jewels. How do you say that in Russian? I don't know, Natasha. How do you say that in Russian? I can't hear it. Hold on. No, still can't hear it. Maybe the sound got killed. Hold on a sec. Maybe you can type it. English channel.
She's in the
Oh,
Russian channel, so I don't think you can hear her.
Oh, okay. Nikita, you're on the Russian channel too? Yeah, okay. So whatever you say in Russian, that's what I'm saying right now. Welcome to Three Jewels and all these people in New York and across the United States and other places as well. Hello, everyone. Hi, Sophia. Hi, Natasha. Thanks for joining. So they'll be joining us every Tuesday. It's a new connection. We have thanks to Nikita and his team in Europe who did our meditation teacher training not too long ago. So that's where you've landed. What I want to talk about today is I also consult for corporations, right? I help organizations change. Groups of people that come together and do a thing in the office, they have to change all the time and they don't like it, right? And then they call me in going, people are fighting, can you help us? And I tend to use Buddhist philosophy to try and help people voice their concerns, come up with solutions, and begin to work together and not see each other as enemies, but as companions on this path of whatever the organization needs to do. And I often ask these people, who thinks that we need change in the world or in the organization? And everybody puts their hand up. Yeah, I probably already told you this, I think the first class. Everyone puts their hand up. And then I ask, who thinks that they need to change themselves? One hand goes up, it's usually the most depressed person. Yeah. It's probably the one that least needs to change. But it's interesting to me, right? We all have this attitude. If they change, I'll be okay. And wake-upist practice, Buddhist practice, the practice of waking up from a sleep, Buddhist practice, wake-upist practice, says the only place that you need to change is you. It's contrary to every message you've ever had growing up in modern world. Be number one, achieve, go to university. I'm not saying don't go to university. I'm not saying don't have a life. Please, no, I'm not saying that. You can do that, but you've got to do that with a different mindset, wake-upists say, if you want real transformation. And the fact is that real transformation, wake-upist transformation, takes work. It can happen. We all want it. We all want it. It's totally possible. Each of you can transform anything and everything that you'd like to transform, especially because it starts in our minds. Our experience of the world is in our minds. You clean that lens, the world looks different. Who's ever been really, really angry at their partner? Anyone? Or at their family member or friend? Everyone's evil. Yeah. No, everyone's... Of course we have. When you're enraged, when you're really angry, and then something nice happens, can you see that nice thing? If you're enraged, it's hard to see it, right? It's like, yeah, whatever. Your mind is imbued with the qualities of anger, and you can't help but bring that to the next moment, right? Who's ever felt a kind of sadness or depression? Yeah, like on many hands, yeah. Yeah, encountering reality of a human life hurts. It can hurt. But just looking at the basics, right? I'm so lucky. I'm in New York. Everyone's like beautiful. I'm the ugly one. Like I'm the only old ugly person in the room. Everyone's like, oh, stunning, whatever, youthful, glowing, and they're like, oh, please, I want to wake up. And I'm like, look at yourself. But our minds engage with the beauty we've had, the goodness that we have around us, and it's not satisfied. It's just not satisfied. It's nothing to do with your skin or your hair or your clothes. It's this incessant dissatisfaction we have. And that is bad enough, but then life happens to you. You're going to get older, sorry. This is the youngest you will ever be, me included. I'm laughing at it because it doesn't have to be problematic. Okay? you'll get sick, you will. And the vitality you feel right now, you won't have at some point. There'll be a point where the shoulder hurts too much, and so you're going to need something. Yeah? There'll be a time where you can't get yourself out of bed. And I don't know, if you're lucky, that will happen to you. If you live long enough, that'll happen to you. And that's a suffering. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And then impermanence hits you. Like the things you've worked so hard to build, I'm sorry, they're going away. And if they're not, you're going and leaving them for someone else. Sorry. It's terrible, but and I'm laughing because we spend so much time obsessing about impermanent things. And the answer is so simple. Like it's not the obsession with those things, but it's the interactions we've had with each other that actually remain. They develop your reactions develop into habits develop into moods develop into personality traits. Personality traits either will make you a grumpy, shitty old person, cynical, angry old person, or a joyful, bubbly, excited old person. And some old people, if they're lucky, are either broke and alive or rich and alive. I'm sorry. And some old people either have family or they don't have family, but they're alive, right? Like this is the reality of where we're heading. Looking at that for what it is can actually let you work with the real nature of our lives and not some imaginary TikTok filter, which can be fun if you know how to play with it. Everyone depressed enough? Everyone good? Yeah, good? Okay, good. Thanks. Yeah, everyone's like, Daniel's like, yes, I'm depressed. Thanks. But like me laughing at this and you laughing back, that's also available in the human condition. You see the irreverence for death? I'm like, okay, so you're coming. I'm laughing in your face when you're coming. There's that option, or I can be depressed and be crying and mourning. Yeah? I'm not saying don't be sad. You'll be sad. Yeah? I was thinking of a Dr. Seuss. I can't remember it. The point I'm trying to make in the discussion tonight is like you can, if you commit yourselves to a practice, to a thing, to doing something, you can really transform your life. Because the essence of that life, if you understand it, is your response to the world. You will have triggers and old habits that force you almost to be angry or to be enraged or to be depressed. You have those habits. We all have habits, but we don't have to be those habits anymore. It is 100% a yes that you can transform if you know what to do inside. To me, that's the fascinating thing about the Wake Uppers practice. It's an extremely detailed manual on how to transform your inner world and then observe the outer world transform. So the fact is you have the technology. If you can move a couple of arms and like be hearing words, you're in, you qualify. So you can transform. The problem is, even if we're very committed, our old habits get the best of us and we get lost. You'll get angry, you'll get depressed. Or, this is, I think for more advanced practitioners, you do the work, a year or two of really like either in meditation or service and all these practices, and then the world begins to change and you see beauty around you and your relationships get better and you have more money, and then you're like, drop my practice, get addicted to that thing again. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Yeah, I've lived long enough to make that happen. So at those points, it's vital for you to have the single pointed obsession with your transformation. That's discipline. I don't have it. That's why it's taken me 25 years to be able to talk about this honestly. For 10 years, I was in the closet. I've been in the closet for longer than, no. For 25 years, I was in the Buddhist closet. Yeah. For about 20 years, I was in the other closet. Yeah, but that was earlier 20 years, and it's too much information. I don't know how you're going to translate that in Russia. Yeah. Damn it. Apologies. And part of it was, I need to make these practices work. Part of it was discipline. I meditate every day. I read and study every day. I get my mind on it's possible to transform and why. The logic, the reasoning, the debate. Keep my mind on it. Keep my mind on it. Part of it was that. Be closeted about my inner practice. Don't need to tell everybody about it. Most people didn't even know I was a Buddhist when I was working for 10 years in Australia as an executive. Never had the beard, had a suit and tie and the whole thing. But if I'm honest with you, I was also closeted because if people found out, then I'd probably have to be more committed. I probably didn't think I could fail. And I failed many times. And by failing, I meant I really didn't have the commitment to the practice. Yeah? A couple of things saved me. Meditating every day, even if it was a crap meditation, putting my ass on the cushion and knowing exactly what to place my mind on, even if it was kicking and screaming, I did it. I spent 12 years without a break, without a single break. Even if I was on a flight to another town, I would have 5 minutes. It was a continuous 12 years of meditating. Because I understood the promise of that meditation. So I invite you, if you're a meditator, get obsessed about the meditation practice, but more than obsession, don't run the short race, run the marathon. Decide that your commitment to your transformation, which can happen, will only happen if you run the marathon. Run the marathon. Meaning, I commit to a long-term investigation of this mind of mine and what's in it. So yes, we can transform. If you don't have commitment to it, your old habits will come at you and you'll be discouraged, especially if you don't know how to overcome a certain obstacle. If you've got a community of people that can help you and whatever, and then your life starts to change and you get all the nice shiny things, careful. You might drop your practice because you think you've arrived somewhere. And this is a long run, yeah, to transcend the human condition. So the first problem is our old habits will get in the way. And they are habits of mind, habits of seeing ourselves and the world in a particular way. That's why meditation is a thing. It's not a thing for any other reason. There are many good side benefits to meditation, lower anxiety, but let's say you have lower anxiety and you still get very sick. If you don't have the view that understands how to interpret a body that is sick and still have rapture, then you'll be broken by the suffering of that sickness. Do you see what I'm saying? Everything, without exception, can be transcended. And that requires a special kind of wisdom, one that is like prepared to transform everything, including the things that we think are non-transformable, like death and dying. It doesn't have to be what we think it is. Now, that's a big claim, right? But I'd rather bet, I'm not a gambler, but I'd rather bet my money on expending this entire life in a practice that invites me to rapture, invites me to kindness, invites me to understand the underlying nature of all existence, than just do the house and the picket fence and the huff a dog and the 3 pictures in front of the Eiffel Tower. Yeah? Which I've done. Yeah, I've done all of those things. I've been married. That was funny. I didn't have the kids, but I have 8 nephews and nieces. I've been at births, and God knows, I don't know what the hell you women do, how you do it. Like, I watch women, like, who's a mother in here? Who's got children? Can I see? Banu, is that you? And Desiree, hi. Blessings to you, goddesses on planet Earth, for giving birth to humans and then walking around a week later like I really have no idea. No, seriously, if you've never seen a bird, anyway, it's crazy. It's alien stuff, right? It's outrageous. And then immediately upon that very visibly painful experience, there's immediate love and compassion for another creature. There's a practice to be a mother. So I'm on this rant about, yes, things can change. You have the power to change absolutely everything. The technology of Buddhism says, here's what you should do. The challenge is, our old habits get in the way. But if you know where to work the habit, which is in your mind, you'll be steadfast at doing that, regardless of what's happening outside. Because I can guarantee you, all the terrible things you're imagining, they might happen, okay? Whether you're a practitioner or not. But the difference becomes, how do you engage with them? All the feces for the Russians, things that you see in the world are still happening. Even after you sit down for a good meditation session, they don't magically disappear. But your relationship for it can change if you change. And so my question to you is, whatever the hell you're practicing, because you're practicing something, the habit of thinking through reality in a certain way, that's your real practice. Your real practice is, I'm jealous of that person in the subway because they've got nicer clothes or they have hair. Like, who's there that's got hair? Like, all the men have hair. Okay, whatever. Mike, stop having hair. Like, there is an impulse to go, oh, if I only had hair, right? There's that kind of habit about whatever the thing we're jealous about. That's just one of what Buddhists call 84,000 mental afflictions. That's just one of 84,000. Jealousy, yeah? The wish that I had what you had. Imagine, just in that practice of seeing someone that has what you have, like I'm looking at your hair, both of you. And what would it be to be happy that someone has what you really want? To actually look at someone and go, oh my God, check her out. She's totally killing it with that fashion she's walking around with. Wow. Like, in the moment, you can either plant seeds of jealousy and I don't have enough, or in that same moment, with the same appearance, you could fill your mind with joy. That doesn't happen naturally. That requires discipline. Yeah, and if left unattended, I believe the majority of us would be jealous. Yeah, naturally, just like, I want what they have, why not me? Blah, 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 blah. That action has consequences. They're not good, because that action isn't good. For you, forget them. They're just walking around looking sexy with hair. Yeah. So a practice of taming your mind from that afflictive state that hurts you and changing it upon the same reality. There's a person with hair. Wow, that's so cool, that hair. Look at her. She's so amazing. Yeah? I don't want to imagine myself with your hair, but anyway. You see what I mean? Like, the moment my mind shifts to joy, I keep the joy. And the more I do that, the more that habit develops. And that's the inertia that is likely to come up next time I see hair. Oh, cool. There's another person with awesome hair. And there's another person with awesome fashion. And there's another person. And your life becomes joy. It's really that simple to say. It really is simple to say. It's not that simple to do. That's why meditation is vital. Like shamatha, your capacity to go, no, let's try joy. A little bit of jealousy and a little bit of joy. That's how it'll be for about 3 months. Yeah. And then until it's more joy and there's jealousy, and then jealousy disappears about the hair. Then you've got to do it about cars. Then you've got to do it about boyfriends. Then you've got to do it about abs. And then But you only really need a few of those to tame your mind. and apply it to everything else. So yes, if you really commit, you can transform your mind. But if left unattended, our habits just stop us. We can't, if left unattended. How do we expect to change the world? You can't even change your mind. We want the world to change. Someone else change. How do you expect to change the world or change people around? You can't even control your mind in a moment of jealousy because someone has hair. And so the technology of wake-upism is very precise about taming the mind. There's a bunch of texts and practices around meditation. What it is not, how it functions to transform every affliction into something divine. And they don't go just for temporal niceties, hair, abs. They go, if you're going to do the work, transform everything, your very existence and state of being. And so I invite you right now to imagine this big word, enlightenment, nirvana. It's technically defined as the permanent cessation of all mental afflictions, right? Meaning your mind could not, impossible, has no more causes for suffering. There is nothing that could disturb your mind. Everything interpreted by the mind is nothing but bliss, enlightenment. Yeah? Everything you lay your eyes on, me, the background, the light, the sound, the feeling on your skin, the fact that you're in front of a digital screen, the nothing but joy in your mind, bliss, impossible to have an affliction. Can you hold that for a second? Can you imagine it for a second? For 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And so there are tricks to get us there. What's the last memory you have of being so in love that nothing else mattered but this love? And forget what happened later, but your mind's capacity to do that. Or to feel confident that you're okay. Like, when's the last time your mind had that moment? And so meditations on bringing that moment forward and amplifying the hell out of it and reciting and building, and that leaves an imprint in your mind that must have a consequence, more of that habit. So it's technique after technique. And I want to share one before we finish because I just talk too much. Thanks for listening to me blabbing. Is it okay? Yeah, good. It's great. Here is a small portion of me checking my mind 6 times a day for the qualities that would help me rather than hinder me. There's a bunch of jealousy around hair in here, a bunch more about abs. I gave that one up. Yeah. I'm like, I lost the fight. But I'm still happy with my belly-ish. So in these books, there's this practice to check your mind 6 times a day around things that bother our minds constantly. Yeah? So each of us have a particular flavor of affliction. If you're really honest, and you don't have to tell everybody, you know. And if you have a friend or a family member, they know. They just don't tell you, okay? And they know that you don't want them to know, but they know, especially if you have a really good friend. They know you're sad. They know you're hiding something. Sorry, it's true. I have friends. They've told me like years later, no, I knew. I'm like, shut up. So there's this practice in particularly in Buddhist practice, but in many other traditions as well, is can you make a commitment, can you make a promise to fix the main things in your mind that keep hurting you? So let's take jealousy, for example. Can you focus on stopping the causes for jealousy arising in your mind? Can you spend a month on it? Can you spend a week on it? Yeah? And actively investigate 6 times a day, what did my mind do in relation to jealousy for the last 2 hours? And I can do it right now, right? I sat with Kira outside and I looked at her. She did this awesome training for 2 years at Nalanda, which I really am interested in. And I had a little bit of jealousy. I'm like, damn, I wish I had time to study neuroscience. And all. Nalanda has a really good course. I mean, I don't know the details, but there was a little bit of, what about me? It isn't fair. I don't know if you all know that song from the 90s, 80s, 60s, whatever. What is it? What about me? It isn't fair. I've had enough and I want my share. Can't you see? Anyway, I want to live, or something like this. I want to give, or something. It's some stupid song. Thanks for the translate that in Russian. So there was a moment of jealousy, right? Okay, and here is the crux of this practice. You look at that moment. So right now, I would open my book, I would create 2-3 minutes and write down. There was that moment of jealousy when Kira was telling me something awesome. My mind was a shit. I am not the shit. I am not a bad person. My mind had a negative emotion arise. I'm not identifying with a negative emotion, right? When you get the flu, you're not the flu, okay? You have the flu. Your mind just had jealousy. You're not jealousy, okay? It's not an excuse to get depressed, because that's also a mental habit we go down in. I'm such a bad person. What about me? Yep. So you look at that moment and you go, oh, I don't want that anymore. I don't want that. Like, I missed a ton of goodness because my mind was feeling competitive or whatever the essence of that. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, my mind felt jealousy when Kira told me her story. So I look at my mind in relation to jealousy and I say, what's a negative thing that came up in the last hour or two? That moment. Good. And that's, for Catholic or Christian practitioners, that's when you go to the confessional, and go, oh dear, I'm so sorry, I confess. Like, you bring it out into the open and it loses some power. You write it down. You have a little bit of shame maybe, but not bad shame. It's like, damn, I don't want that anymore. I'm going to work to get rid of it. Then you have a rejoicicle, the opposite of the confessional. You're like, okay, in relation to jealousy in the last 2 hours, where was I actually the opposite of jealousy? Where did I actually create a moment where I was genuinely happy for another person's happiness? And I can tell you, there was this awesome guy on the train on the way here. Don't know his name, but he was reading a book and he looked so chill, so happy, engrossed in his book, and everyone else is on their phone. And I didn't feel a moment's jealousy. He looked really nicely relaxed, dressed. He had like a kimono on. He was a little wild. And I'm like, I love this guy. He's totally in his world. And I had this genuine moment of happiness for him. So in my little book, I'll write down, my God, this guy, I'll make up his name or something, or make up some story and allow my mind to amplify the goodness that my mind did. I'll favor the goodness over the negativity with Kira, right? So I'm like, oh, cool, I have the tools. I have the capacity to have a mind that has joy. I want more of that. And so then the third thing around, in the 5 minutes that I'm writing this down, or 3 minutes, is like, what am I going to do in the next minute or 5 hours or whatever the next moments are to lean more on that positive? Where can I be really joyful, take an action that imprints my mind, that amplifies goodness? And that will destroy what I felt with Kira today. Does that make sense? So it's a very active practice of making a commitment, a real commitment to transform your mind, but then doing something about it 6 times a day. And then you just relax. You look for that next moment where you could be happy about someone else. And so you're actively looking to transform your mind. And so let's say I was doing it right now and I'm writing the book. I'm like, okay, in the next few minutes, I've got to be really joyful about something. And I'm going to be joyful that Alyssa is playing with her t-shirt, laying down, playing with a 3 jewels shirt there. And you're the first person I saw. Yeah. And I'm just going to bring you to say hi, and be happy for her that she's sitting there chilling, having a good time. Yeah. And that's good. I'm actually actively trying to build the psychological side of my mind to lean on happiness for others rather than jealousy and competitiveness. And I dedicate it to smashing the little shitty action my mind had in relation to a good story from Kira. Does that make sense? So that's called the 6 times a day book. I'm going to see if I can do an act of truth and see if I read one from a random page. Which color do you want? This is, yellow. Oh, yellow is it? Everyone's yelling yellow. Okay. And then I'm just going to read it and see. Oh, I didn't write anything here. Yellow. Let's have a look. This is not a good book. Sorry, yellow is a retreat book, not a 6 times a day book. So let's choose a different color. Red. Deep red. 1, 2, or 3? 3. Here we go. Hopefully that's not a retreat book. That's a thing. And then I'll just give you a taste of it, just so you can see what happens there. Okay, here we go. And then there are some things that I cannot read in public. No, because it's the most honest you should be. You should put it out there. Because when you see it in writing, you're like, I don't want to write that again. Like, really, it's the most stunning thing. I can't read you that one. It's rude. Damn it. My mind is garbage. Be a second, I promise. Let me find one at the back. Here we go. We've got some at the back. Let's go. Oma Hum Swaha. Here we go. So one of the vows that you take is not to harm any living being. Yeah. Try and protect life as much as you can. So then I would have stopped in the middle of the day and go, okay, where did I not pay particular attention to the well-being of those around me? So I can begin to imprint my mind to be more aware of every nuance of the well-being of those around me. That positive state of mind has a big impact, especially in the way you feel about your own life, yeah, and your health. I had a fight with a friend's cat. Okay, I was staying at a friend's house and the cat was being annoying and I didn't treat it with respect. Okay, I know the moment where I flicked the cat off. It's interesting. This is 2011, okay? February 25. I went to... with regret, I went to Luke, that cat, yeah, and spent some time cuddling it afterwards. So that was a good thing. So within 2 hours, my mind had the shitty experience. I must have regretted it somewhere in the middle and then gone and taken care. So I used the same cat for both the negative and the positive. What will you do? I'll stick to being vegetarian for the rest of the day. Okay? You're supposed... I love that I said the rest of the day because you don't want, in this practice of keeping your promises to yourself, right? And there's depth to it. There's more than I'm sharing, right? You don't want to create a lie by saying, I will always be vegetarian, because then you're actively creating something you know you're going to break, yeah? Unless you will always be vegetarian. I wasn't in 2011, still not. Okay, just saying. Does that make sense? Does that help you? Yeah, understand? So yes, you can transform. Honestly, you can transform to absolutely any happiness that you want. It's available to you. Any happiness you can imagine, you can do it. Really, you can. You'll be stopped by your own old habits internally. Okay, so that's the fight. No problem. But shoot, What is it? Sujitsu? What is it? Jusitsu. Shut up. What is it? Jiu-jitsu. You can jiu-jitsu your own mind. Right? Did I say it right? Like, get ready for a nice dance with your mind. Your mind will just show you habits. You are not the habits. You have a cold. It's called jealousy, anger, lack of compassion. Like any negative state of mind that would harm others is going to harm you. Any negative state of mind that is down on yourself is going to harm you too. You're one of everyone too. So in this practice, you make a commitment, and in Buddhism, this is formalized in 3 sets of vows. Yeah? There's refuge vows, where you commit to take refuge in the fact that your mind can change. These are called refuge vows. There's more detail to that. You take refuge in the 3 jewels. There's a whole bunch of studying. But what it really means is the fact that everything is up for transformation because of the emptiness of those things. We discussed that in this class many times. I'm sure I'll discuss it again. But the fact that everything has infinite possibility, that's what its emptiness means. It doesn't have to be what the things don't have to be the way they appear. The fact of things changing means that a negative state of mind can transform to a blissful state of mind. So you take refuge, you take shelter in the fact that you are able to transform. So there's a bunch of vows, 12 to be specific, around taking refuge in your mind on that. Yeah, I can transform. Here is people that have transformed. Like you make a vow, promise, to keep your mind single pointed for a while on, instead of taking refuge in the bottle or in the fashion or in the hair, you take refuge that your mind is capable of deep transformation. That's a big habit to change. The main way we do that is stop hurting people. And then you'll see the benefits of taking care of others. Yeah. And by people includes cats like Luke. Yeah. So that's one set of vows. And so there are wake-uppists who walk around and stop 6 times a day to do that in their mind. Check their refuge vows and what's called the Pratimoksha vows, the vows of individual freedom, the vows that get you to enlightenment, right? And there's lay people's vows, and then there are vows for monks and nuns. Promises that you keep to pay deep attention to the habits your mind is doing, which creates your future experience of yourself and the world. This represents a small section of the commitment, my commitment to my own transformation. And I'm not a good practitioner. That's why it's taken me 25 years. I really am not. I'm a lazy practitioner. Yeah. I could have done it faster if I didn't hide for 10 years working an office and pretending that nobody knew I was a Buddhist. I really could have done it faster if I understood earlier what I understood later. Yeah. So that's one set of vows. And imagine just for a second that you've tamed your mind enough to actually believe that your mind is infinitely possible to have every goodness that you wish for, like for real, and not grasping, like in a relaxed way, like I'm the shit for real, like my mind is awesome. Like that's in you, right? And the closest I get to talk about that with you is the time that you've ever fell in love with someone. I keep saying that because I know that moment, if you felt it, whether it's a child, a family member, grandma, or a lover, or whatever, if you've been in a moment where another being is everything to you in that moment, that expansive feeling of awe and bliss, nothing can break it in that moment. When you're in that moment, you can't hate, you can't have anger. Like when you're in that moment looking in those eyes, that is possible in your mind for that moment, right? Then you broke up and then they said something stupid. Okay, whatever. But in that moment, your mind was capable to have that experience. And if your mind is nothing but habits, figure out what created that habit in the first place. Make that your new habit. And then you can abide in that state, walking out into New York, and the rats on the subway are just the most awesome, beautiful things you've ever seen. No, they can be. There's a kind of dance and magic about the bizarre craziness of New York City. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's in your mind. So that's refuge vows. Practice 6 times a day, you can do that. It's mostly about not hurting others, like take responsibility for your mind. And then there's this more advanced vows, and more advanced just means stretching your capacity further, and these are called bodhisattva vows. The course that Earl and Sarah are teaching on Thursdays. How to really have that wish to wake up. You understood it, your mind is capable, refuge, yeah. Now can you do that for everyone else who has a mind? Can you wish to wake up for the sake of mums and dads and people that are addicted and in suffering or in views that don't help them? And so there's a whole bunch of vows there, promises to check your mind for specific qualities that will prevent you from taking care of others. So when I think of these Buddhist vows, I think, oh, the refuge vows are like big boulders on my road to awakening. Remove those. They're hard, right? Stop harming people. Like, check out the big habits, cut at least half of them, and then the road is more clear. Then the bodhisattva vows, the vows that want to take care of others as well as yourself, they're like finer rocks, smaller rocks. I'm like, oh, I've got to work more rocks. And then there's more advanced, like the secret teachings, a whole bunch of very esoteric practices that really don't let your mind hide from itself. Because your mind will also go there and create little cocoons for afflictions to live, little bad habits. And then the more advanced vows are, transform that too. Lean into discomfort so much that you just won't want to be in discomfort anymore. Yeah. So then that's what's in here for me. I don't know how many I do a year. I don't do it in written anymore. I do it in digital format now, where I check my vows. And there's a bunch of people here who have vows and they do that. So we have a WeChat, we share those vows. And then every 2 weeks we get together and we say, okay, let's be really, really open about this. And we come together, those that share the same kind of vows, here at Three Jewels and everywhere in the world that there are monks and nuns with vows. They have this sojong ceremony. They get together and they say, here is the state of my mind for the last 2 weeks. I would like to purify these things. I'll try not to have these things come up. I got angry, whatever. Really open in front of your companions on the path to awakening. And then also, they're like, these are the stunning moments of mind I had and I developed in the last 2 weeks. And you sit there and you rejoice. You really rejoice about the beauty in other people's minds. And it inspires you to really connect with that part of you that sees beauty and stunningness. And so I think that's the end of my class. I'll answer some questions. I got 5 minutes. I wanted to share with you that, yes, your mind can transform. Yes, these practices do it. There's a ton of practices. But the core of it is a kind of wisdom that understands, oh, it's in my mind. What are the things to work my mind? Meditation is an obvious one, right? Get yourself to tame your mind. It's so easy to say. It's so easy to say. Don't get angry when I say things to make you angry. Okay. Like you should be able to shoot jujitsu. Did I say it right? Your mind. Enough to see what might have triggered you to anger and be completely there and going, if I react with anger, I'm just creating more anger. I'm going to watch this thing and let it dissolve in front of me or do whatever jujitsu I need to do to not let it harm me and not let them harm me or others either. But I'm not doing it from a vengeance point of view because that's what you're planting. I'm doing it from a this stops with me point of view. Yeah. And then if you really want tools, this is a practice. Many people here know this practice, and I encourage you. So, Jeannie, you have a question. I don't know if my speaker's on. Can you unmute and ask and see if I can hear you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
What?
You can hear me? Okay. So I have a question. I guess this is personal, but whatever. so I struggle a bit with, I guess, speaking to my mother about things because um, there has been a point where she's been a bystander in my trauma. And so oftentimes I find myself repeating things to her that I've already mentioned before. And so it almost seems as though she's being negligent or kind of ignoring on purpose. And so I find it frustrating at times to truly kind of practice that mindset of not harming any human being because I feel like whenever I disclose my emotions to her, it becomes her kind of crying or her taking the moment and making it about herself. And so I don't really know how to go about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for being so open. Yeah, and I hope that that question resonates to some degree about. Am I muted? Yeah. About other people in your lives. You will always find someone in your life. Like that's not going to change. Stop trying to change your mom. Yeah. What you can change is you.
Okay.
And so what I'm trying to say is it doesn't mean your mum won't change. It doesn't mean the terrible person or the person that's negligent won't change. It doesn't mean that, right? But if you change you, then that doesn't affect you. Yeah. Now, if it's practically affecting you, if there's physical harm or if there's other kind of harm, the dependence on that. So then you should get yourself out of that way. Yeah, whether it's an aggressive person or an abusive person, you should remove yourself from being the target of that. And I'm talking to a broad topic. Yeah, I took your question and I'm answering to a broad topic. Every one of you will encounter someone, if you haven't already, that doesn't have or appear to have the best interests of your current need. Yeah. And so what do you do with that, right? Do you keep struggling and trying to change that relationship or that person? Well, most of the talk today was, even if you try, you can't guarantee that the world will change. You can practice something that will be likely to change you, even though it's hard. Yeah? Because we're all in this habit of continuing the same patterns all the time. That inertia is difficult to break, but not impossible. Yeah? Because there are techniques. So if it's really terrible, get yourself out of the situation. If there's something you can do about it, shifting your perspective, stop asking that person or expecting that person to validate your point of view. And if you gave that up, then their action or reaction to you would never do it. Like if you stop sharing. I had that relationship with my dad. My dad was for sure a sociopath, for sure. Yeah. And he just desperately wanted people to love him and approve of him. And he sucked that out of my mum, and he sucked that out of my sisters. He sucked it out of me. And I was really annoyed at him, yeah? Because I also wanted his approval as a child. Please, I want your approval. It's your dad. And so you're taught to be in this codependent relationship. But there will always come a time between parents and children where you're going to have to be more of the parent in a relationship to your parents. They'll either get sick or there'll be some kind of dependence. But what do I do with a sociopath when he started getting old and actually needed me, And so for me, thanks to these Buddhist practices, I stopped the expectation that my dad could give me anything and everything that I needed. I just stopped expecting it from him. I wanted particular ways for him to behave so I would be happy. I gave that up. And it was only then that I was able to see my dad with compassion. Like he's just a habit of something else that happened to him. Poor bastard. I really got to understand. I would listen with a different ear, you see. I wasn't listening with an ear of dependence. I would listen to him about, oh, Dad, why is that? Like I have this certainty. I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm just going to listen to you. Or I'm going to watch your reaction and I see you're inviting me to be triggered again in this thing and I'm just not going to do it. So he'd kick and scream and try a new method. I could see very clearly he was trying to make the world give him the fix of that rush that a person like him needed. And it was really all based about attention. And I got to hear stories that I'd never heard before once I stopped giving him the power to make me feel a certain way. Once I gave that up, I could actually love him. Until then, I was needing him. It was strange. And I got to a point where my dad ended up sobbing in a way that he depended on me. And he revealed that when his mother died, she asked for all the brothers to go and see her, but not him. And I could see very clearly when he told me that story, oh my God, that's the thing he's repeating. Please call me, please love me. And so he would suck the love and life out of everyone around him. And there was no end to the amount of love he could take. And he would trash it. And so I don't know if that speaks to you, but you will all find someone who needs you. I wasn't able to love him before I let go of the expectation that he had to be a certain way with me. And then I really loved him in a way that was way more healthy. It was healthy, it was sustaining, and it was actually practical. I could help him, I could actually help him. And it was only then that our relationship took on a different thing. The other thing I would share with you, thanks again for being so open and dedicate this to every one of your shitty relationships, right? I did this TEDx talk in Bushwick called How to Get Rid of the Angry Boss. And I speak in more detail there about what you personally have to do to overcome the inertia of that codependency. I need you to be this way, I feel bad. I need you to be this way, I feel bad. Yeah? And so that getting rid of the angry boss is a more detailed Buddhist practice of how you can transform your mind, and then something that might have been a horrible relationship could turn into the most awesome teaching of compassion, similar to the way I spoke about my dad. Thank you so much for that question. Thank you so much for letting me ramble on. I really appreciate the fact that the Russians are here. The Russians are here. Yeah. Can we? We are so happy to be connected with you. Wherever Bruce went, I want to say hi to Bruce. I want to say hi to everyone that's been at 3 Jewels. Thank you, Natasha. We'll be here next week talking about more practices. There's a couple of announcements. Sarah and Earl teach a Thursday night class that goes really in depth around the assumptions that I get to share so openly here. They'll talk about techniques for these practices, the foundations of why it works and why it doesn't. And they just started another section in their course, The Heart of a Warrior Saint, how to be that kind of person that is committed to transforming your mind, not just for you, but for the sake of the world. Yeah. It's lofty and it's stunning. It's full of beauty. Yeah. But it's detailed. You get readings from Tibet and ancient India and the rest. That's one thing. Second thing, 3 Jewels, we're holding a meditation teacher training for people that want to teach meditation to others or have a meditation practice and want to go deeper. And I'll be leading that starting October 1st. Applications are online. The training many people have asked me, the training is both, it's either or both in person and online. You can take the entire training online if you want to be away from people. But if you need community, like the room is nice and full of humans connecting in 3D, you can also do it in person. Yeah. And sometimes in person, sometimes online. I don't know how to describe that hybrid thing, but you have an option to do it in person and online. Some people were thinking it's only online, so I wanted to clarify that for some of the questions that people had. So applications are open. The other thing about that is we have scholarships for people that might not be able to afford it, or are part of groups of people that don't naturally get access to these teachings. Yeah. So we LGBTQ plus and all the other letters that go behind my kind of person. There's no O for old, by the way. There should be LGBTQ plus O. Yeah. BIPOC, folks with disabilities, and anyone with financial hardship. Yeah, which we'll ask you to demonstrate, and then we get to balance. And honestly, it's not about the money for 3 Jewels. We're a non-profit. We would like to give this training to as many people as possible, but we also need to pay the rent, so we have to charge. Yeah, but you'll either get a full or partial scholarship if you apply and there's room. Often we get more people, but I want to highlight their scholarships open up until September 15th, I think I want to say. So if you're interested in that, go apply. There's a bunch of other classes, and we're about to shift everything come September 6th. So there'll be double the amount of classes. Memberships change price. So if you want to lock in, thank you. If you want to get a cheaper membership by $40, you can lock it in before September 6th, and you get the $108 a month rate rather than $147. Right? Yeah, thank you. And other good things at 3 Jewels. Like I said, we're a non-profit. These classes are free or by donation. If you can't afford it, you're paying for other people. So donate and just hang out with each other and practice together. That's my story. Thank you for letting me blab. Find a way to do this with your mind and commit. Like, actually do it. There's no age limit. You can start today. Change your mind. Ninon, love you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Say bye to Russia. Oh, questions on the questions on the QR code. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Oh, can you hear the song? Here it comes. Thank you. Bye, people. That was hilarious.